Hi, I'm Jeff Groh and welcome to Gravity. This month we're talking about wrestling. A lot of wrestlers out there. I tried wrestling when I was in high school. Too intense for me. I tried it for a year and a half and bailed out because I was the new guy. The National Federation of State High School Association, whatever that is, right, estimates that there's over 275,000 high school wrestlers, of which 6,000 of those are female. And that's growing. You see that number growing every year. Now this doesn't include collegiate, so you can probably add another 100,000 on at least, and you've got a fairly big population of wrestlers. And what a tough sport it is. There's takedowns, there's single leg sweeps, there's reversals, there's cradling, there's spladling. Some of these terms I don't even remember, but what we do is we get on YouTube, we look at videos, you try to kind of get the gist of what's going on. And with wrestling, it's probably one of the most dynamic sports I've ever had to watch in slow motion and try to break it down to look for common denominators. So some of the injuries that occur in wrestling, the number one stat that popped out to me doing the research is that over 50% will at least have one injury throughout the season. Now, I can probably, that sounds about right because it is a rough sport. There's firemen's throws, there's people flying in the air. It's tough. So there's an increased risk to your shoulders, to your knees, everything based on, our probable suspect for all those injuries is the takedown, because a lot of times they're up in the air and you're literally driving body weight down into probably a 2-inch thick foam mat. It doesn't have a lot of give in it, but you come down on your shoulders, you get that AC joint popping, you get all kinds of, trauma to the wrist and whatnot, shoulder, neck, everything kind of can get traumatized. We can't necessarily help with that, but we can take a look at the strategies of wrestling and come up with common denominators with regards to what the injuries are and how we can accommodate those with conditioning programs. Now this is a fast and powerful sport. Again, watch it on YouTube. It's tough to break down. But the lead leg, when you look at some of the moves, when you start to shoot, you get that lead leg, that's very susceptible to injury. That was another thing that popped up in the research, is that the lead leg can be, is more susceptible to injury. It's kind of out there, it's moving at a tremendously fast pace, and you're doing a bottom or top down driver, so you're shooting with your arms, you're getting all these motions, and I'm doing them at about a quarter speed it actually happens, that are going to tweak that knee. So we have to be careful there, and that mat's pretty sticky, so you don't get a lot of wiggle jiggle on that mat. So what's that equate to? It equates to torque. So some of the common denominators that when we look at wrestling is that there's a lot of incredible power through extension and flexion of the trunk. Whether you're trying to get out of a grasp, or you're trying to reverse, or you're trying to escape, those motions are going to help you escape out. So a lot of extension, powerful movement that uses the whole body, the whole chain up and down. There's a lot of planking as well. If you see people, watch a video and you'll see a guy that's almost getting pinned, you'll see him press his heels to get that bridging effect, or that press the heels up, get the shoulder up. So you're driving through extension of the hips, you're driving that rotation, whatever you can do to avoid the pin. So the drivers are very important in our program for the same concept that we did with the other sports. Is we're going to have more of a readiness program or a complete off-season program, and then a pre-season wrestling program, because nothing can match the demands of wrestling like wrestling itself. But we can do whatever we can do to help those athletes better condition themselves to set themselves up for a successful season and hopefully be on the other side of the 50% that don't get injured. Okay, we're here at Gravity this season wrestling the Readiness program. So this is phase 1, and again, this is to create a thought process for you to really dive in, because I know there's some wrestling coaches out there that can do a much better job than I can at putting programming together. This is just to get you to think a little bit differently outside of the box with preparing your athletes for the wrestling season. So with principles of wrestling, where do you start with the principles of wrestling? Obviously, gravity has a strong component in it. Ground reaction force, you're going to be digging in. You've even got special shoes designed for wrestlers to really get a good grip into that padding. It's a load and explode party. So you've got muscles that have to lengthen and contract at an incredibly fast rate in order to create that powerful speed movement. So you've got an increase in speed, you've got heavy loads. You basically got 2 to 3 minutes, whether you're in high school or college, of full-on body weight versus body weight. And it's tough. These are tough things to do, so some of the exercises are going to be tough. If you have a wrestler come into your program and you have them doing some riff-raff stuff with preparedness of maybe you're going to do some bridging, they probably won't see the value of that. So you might have to beat them up a little bit. So we even have a special guest here today that I get to beat up on a little, and he'll probably beat me up. Hold on for just a second now. He's ready to roll. Now with the strategies are to, again, look at it, it's a very three-dimensional sport. So to get in there and three-dimensionalize the strength component of the exercises is one of our strategies. It's full body. There's a lot of mobility and control. Again, go back to that YouTube video and you see joints put in positions that you wouldn't even imagine. So we're gonna, look at some of the joints and really get to see what the range of motion is, where the transformation point is before they end up going into an injury, and we don't want to go there. Today we're going to get to introduce one of my favorite accessories, which is the scrunch, and there's no better accessory on the GTS for wrestling than the scrunch. I thought of the two words, scrunch and wrestling. They just fit. It's just it's like peanut butter and jelly. All right, we're getting into too many analogies. So we're going to set the stage for all kinds of isometric upper body strength. So if you're on the mat and somebody's driving their elbow into the back of your neck, you've got to plank yourself out of that. You've got to have a lot of, it's not isometric strength, but it is, because you've got to stand there, but you're eventually going to want to contract out of it. So you want to have a lot of upper body strength. So a lot of the movements we do, they'll be in positions where you have to maintain that position while we go after another body part. You'll see that with the scrunch. All right, now it's time to introduce the guy that's usually on the other side of the camera, who wrestled for 45 years in high school, Mr. Brian Rose. He's another Ohioan. He's coming after me. Hey, see the sweep and turn? Was that a spladle?
I don't know what it was.
All right, so Brian's here. We're going to start off, again, we're going to speed this up by kind of skipping the warm-up, and that's not good practice, but for video and you watching this little screen on your computer, I hope you're thankful. So dynamic warm-up before we get here. Brian just ran a couple laps around the park. He did some push-ups, he chased a dog, he did all kinds of stuff, so he's ready to go. We're going to start off right out of the gate with the scrunch. The scrunch is basically an accessory that attaches to the bottom or the top of your GTS or total gym, and what he's going to do is get into a kneeling position and come up to an elbow plank. So he'll plank his elbows in, get a nice strong grip, and this is that upper body bracing component I was talking about. So this is a closed chain upper body exercise. It's not really moving, it's planted. Everything's moving around that. So we're going to start with a real basic scrunch, which is going to be hip extension. So he's going to drive down and then bring his hips up with the hip flexors and the abdominals. So you're really going to try to pull the belly button up and in as you come up, and just come all the way up, drive down, and then up. So we're lengthening the hip, lengthening the muscles before we contract them. So we have that proprioceptive stimulation that says, hey, you guys better wake up and help me get through this. Go through these about 10, 15 times. For the sake of, for Brian's endurance and this video, we're gonna skip through a few things. So what we're gonna have him do now is get out of that sagittal plane and get into that transverse plane. So he's going to tilt his legs over to one side and really start jamming on the obliques with an oblique variation of the scrunch. So we'd call this like a scrunch with rotation or an oblique scrunch. You can name it, you can create something that's more appealing to the wrestling crowd. And then maybe he switches over to the other side, does the same thing. So we're getting the whole anterior component of the body warmed up, fired up, with the added bonus of having this bracing. If I want to add a little pressure to his upper body, I can press here, but he's got to stabilize down there. Okay, to dismount out of that, you're just going to put your feet on the ground and slowly allow the glide board to roll down to the bottom towards the lower base. We did forget our pull-up flush, so I'm going to give you this one. Basically, when you're done with that, maybe you want to work this, the lat, the teres major, the biceps, long head, the triceps, everything by just doing kind of a short pull-up just to flush it out. So we forgot that, but it's a nice one just to allow the arms to move. Did you like that? Okay, next is going to be our kind of a, what is it called? The shoot, where you shoot in with the knee and you go in for the takedown. So we're going to go into that lead leg, put it into a vulnerable position, and add the strength component too. So what we'll do is start off, Brian, with that without weight. He's just going to go through this. You're going to have your feet just parallel to each other, and you're going to put one foot up on the board and maybe a little further back. There you go. And what he's going to do is, let's start slow by coming down, and as he does that, I'm going to have him shoot his arms up in the air. As he goes down, his arms go up. Okay. There you go. He's from Cleveland, so things are going to take a little while. I'm from Cincinnati, so we gotta do that. He's probably going to tackle me. All right, so nice little warm up for both sides. He needs more challenge, so we're going to add a couple dumbbells and really start to get into some explosion. So really pressing up as he lunges down, just getting more and more dynamic. Excellent. Nice work. So that front, this hip on this side is getting super lengthened. And it probably feels a little bit awkward to him. Matter of fact, I can even see little things that I might want to work on down the road with Brian if he'll pay me to be able to work on that rotation. So as he went through that lunge, his back foot went into a serious external rotation on the glide board. Part of it's because he didn't have shoes on, but it's just an opportunity for me to say, hey, why is that doing that? Is it the same on both sides? And is it an opportunity to pick up a personal training client? Okay, I'll take these back. Now we're gonna speed it up and go right into another upper body exercise. That was kind of a combo. We're gonna take off the scruncheroo. We're gonna put it down towards the bottom. And I'm gonna get set up for cradle rows, yes. So we talk about cradling. And I look at wrestling and you see these guys are holding people in. You've got to hold things in. You might have a leg, you might have a foot, you might have a big cauliflower ear kind of looking you right in the eye. You got to hold things in, hold them tight. Muscles are shortened, they're gunked down, but they have to be strong in the most contracted position. Contracted, yes, that's right. So we're going to start off with a high kneeling. I'm going to crank it up too. So I'm going to have you just get into a lateral kneeling position. And if you need a towel or something, if the glide board gets a little slippery, things will be dangerous. So you're pretty stable there. I'm going to just give you a couple of tests. Okay, looks stable. I'm going to bring this to his right hand, and I crank this up because these guys need challenges, need big strength. And what he's going to do is just drive the elbow across and really lock it in. So we're getting the biceps, the scapula is really going through a nice abduction across here. He's driving that elbow across and really holding it in. He can even go palms up. Get a little more biceps in there. Beautiful rotation. All the friends are helping out for him to be able to pull that leg or ankle in order to trip the other ankle and go into a takedown and earn a couple points. How's that feel, all right? Good. Okay, nice work. I'm gonna just take that back from you. Take this off here, and next we're gonna go back to Mr. Scrunch, but we're gonna throw him down towards the bottom. And what that's gonna do is seriously increase the demand of the upper body. Can you hold that up there for me, Brian?
Am I paying you?
Yeah, exactly. Somebody's got to be earning some money around here. Okay, find the bottom hole, throw the other one in, and we're at a really high angle, so we're going to lower that down. Okay, what he's going to do now is he's going to go into that scrunch position, so go ahead and kneel down. And we're going to warm his upper body up. Now what he's done here is we're in a position, I'm going to bring your knees down a little bit further. Yeah, and just see what happens when you press that up. Okay, so now we're in a much more weight bearing of a position. Instead of the incline helping us, now it's assisting in creating more intensity. So he's going to have all this demand upstairs while we go through a series of exercises. So he's just going to go through the basic extension, back and forth, what we call like a crouching tiger. Starting on his knees, and then eventually you'll see in our phase 2 program, we'll really tweak this up. We'll really crank it up a little bit. We're starting with a nice foundation move. How's that feel?
Good.
All right, that's the basics. Remember, more's coming, so go ahead and kneel out of that. Next exercise, we're going to go into push-ups. So I just planked him for a little bit. He's pre-fatigued, so I can go after the triceps. Go after the upper body a little bit more, so I might give him a little help with a decrease in intensity. Now you're going to go to that push-up position. So your feet will be either on the lower base or on the concrete, wherever you feel comfortable. Open the glide board, so you've got to get all that shoulder stability in. And now he's going to go through just a regular push-up, and we're not going to spend time in this regular push-up stuff because that's just not how wrestling works. We're going to tweak the arm. So I'm going to have him bring his left arm up and his right arm down a little bit, grabbing wherever his wrists are comfortable, and do a push-up with a little bit of rotation. So you can see that trunk rotate. You can see this is a little bit more dynamic. You're getting that hip opened up, and you're going to be contorted in wrestling. So these guys need to have their spine really tweaked in all different angles to create a solid athlete. And then let's just switch that up. Looking good, looking good. Now let's try a couple narrow push-ups. Remember the diamond push-ups? Now there's a little bit less stability overall. And we can do a narrow staggered. So now you put one up, one down. There you go, just like that. So just tweak the hands. You can tweak them in the frontal plane, the sagittal plane, or the transverse plane. Nice work. So again, an abbreviated version. And now for the coup de grace, we're going to go after some bridging. I don't know if I've ever used that word before. Is that the right word? Coup de grace? And what we're going to do is set up this little thing, and this is not This isn't something we really practice too much, but I'm really curious to see, because when I looked at athletes, wrestling athletes, again, getting pinned, they're trying to bridge up with their hips and escape that point. So they're either rolling around on their neck or they're pushing themselves up on their shoulders in order to get that shoulder up and out of that pinned position. So we're gonna have Brian go into what's called a supine bridge position. He's gonna lie down, get this X pad just so it's supporting his cervical spine. And the first thing I'm gonna do is block out the glide board so he can put his feet on here and then just go through some basic bridging. So he's gonna press his pelvis up, really press it up and drop it down. And before it hits the ground, return the other direction so you get the full benefit of the set of 10 or 15 repetitions that you're doing. So the next tweak might be that I might open this up. So he's gonna bring it up just a little bit and do that same thing. Now he's got a lot less stability. So his hamstrings are gonna start to fire up. His glutes are fired up, even part of his calves are going to be fired up, and obviously all the way through the trunk. Now I can come back to the basic move again and see what a real bridge looks like when you start to press up into the cervical spine. Now you have to be careful with the neck. However, when you look at wrestlers and watch some of their training, you're going to see neck rolls, and I can remember some of the craziness that we did. So he's going to do kind of a junior version of that and then show you one or two of the more advanced. So he's just going to press up and press into his neck but not come all the way up. So he's getting a lot of load on the cervical spine, helping out with the arms, getting the hips nice and high. And then just for giggles, what we'll do is open this up, try one more of those. And then right at the end, try a couple of the full on with your arms back. You're gonna bridge up. He can kind of assist in that cervical load with his hands, or he goes up to the most advanced version, which is the full neck cervical position. That's perfect, thank you. So you can see we can tweak the environment, we can tweak the GTS, we've got a scrunch board. Those appear like some of the advanced activities, but wrestling is a go-get-'em sport, so you gotta go after the athletes. Remember, you've got the scrunch board. We're gonna build on some of the foundation in the next phase, but play around with some of those, create some of the strategies or functional thought processes that we try to get to you over the screen here, and create your own programs to deliver solid wrestling preparation programs to your athletes. I didn't defend myself well at all. I went high.